Hello, it's Scott with Zenvy AI, and welcome to the Systems Are Sexy podcast. Today, I am joined by Jessie Ellis. She is the founder of Gable Design. Jessie brings nearly 15 years of institutional architectural experience into the small business and residential space, helping owners avoid costly mistakes through process, advocacy, and high level problem solving. So, today we're going to talk about inefficiency in small projects, navigating contractors, digital expansion, and what it really looks like to scale expertise without losing control. So, Jesse, welcome to the show. How we doing?
Good. How are you, Scott?
Good. Good. I always kind of like to start with people's background a little bit just because I feel like that's a kind of interesting story. So I know you had spent about 15 years working on schools and hospitals, kind of like bigger projects, bigger budgets. And I'm just wondering, what did that environment teach you that maybe you've brought to your business now?
Right. So yeah, the big jobs, right? Most of them in some way, shape, or form had tax dollars involved or private money involved. So every dime had to be accounted for and tracked appropriately. Now, does that mean that there was a lot more paperwork? Sure. Right. But there was a lot in that process looking at the 100 million plus jobs that gave me the understanding of why they were put that way. So bringing that down into, the smaller jobs with those efficiencies and understanding really allows us to figure things out more proactively rather than problem solving on the fly, right? A lot of the smaller jobs, they are reactive, right? They're, oh yeah, okay, I understand that you want to do XYZ, so let's just start it. And then as the trouble or as the, clash detection comes up because they open something up, instead of standing there and filling it out in field, if you bring me on, I'm proactive. I see some of those issues. And so we're taking care of them in the beginning so that way everything else can run smoothly, which is something that's absolutely critical for the big jobs because nobody's showing up to a, 20-acre job site without knowing exactly what they're doing, exactly where they're moving, the schedule and the budget, all of that is decided. So that way when those big crews show up, they can just crank. And that's not really what exists in the small projects and the residential projects. They're kind of doing it in tandem, which can really lead to unforeseen costs and time limit that a regular person wouldn't even know was a problem.
Right. So I'm guessing you work with homeowners, and they're probably thinking, "Hey, I just need the drawings." Why is architectural insight or oversight so much more important?
Well, you get to understand the issues and constraints early rather than later. So, I think back to a few of my small business clients specifically and how, and homeowners too. I mean, they're both in the same boat, right? Everybody needs a dollar to go 10 times farther than it can. And it's getting worse. It's getting higher in cost, it's getting higher in labor. I am no expert, couldn't tell you why, right? We just are dealing with what we're dealing with. So, everybody only wants to spend the exact dollar that they want to spend. And so when you're in the middle of it, right? A client could have spent 50, 100, 200,000 and then all of a sudden we're realizing that there's a 50 or $75,000 oops somewhere. Could have been foreseen, could have not been foreseen, right? You never know. It could be something in the dirt when you go to build a house that you need to spend 50,000 more on the foundation. Or in a commercial job, you could think your HVAC system is adequate and then you find out it's not. And then that's 40 to 60K for ductwork and a new rooftop unit, right? It can add up quick. So wouldn't you rather know that before you moved and did anything? Or would you like to know it when you're 90 days into a 120-day construction cycle? You've already spent X amount of dollars. You've already done all of these change orders. And now you just got hit with something big, right? Now, not saying you can't handle it financially, but even on the mental end, it's stressful. It doesn't matter who you are. Stress free does not exist, even if you had someone holding your hand the entire time. But someone like me can reduce it as much as humanly possible. And we can hit those things early and be proactive with it instead of reactive. And you're almost kind of stuck with it then, right? Which just really doesn't help anybody.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah, I wanted to switch more to kind of the marketing side. And I know you had mentioned before that most of your business comes from word of mouth and relationships. And what have you done to, because I think people listening, like, how do I do that? Like, what have you done to intentionally build that referral engine?
Yeah, so I try to just be transparent as I can be. I sometimes over communicate, especially if someone doesn't have experience with it. If I've done 10 jobs with them, at this point, we just got to check a couple boxes and then I just crank it out because I know them well enough to know how they want it done. But the ones, especially in the beginning, it's over communication. Also being calm under pressure, right? Like, this is not fun. You are talking about someone's dream, whether that's their home or their business. It's a dream. So there is emotion tied to it. And then you're talking about money. And then you're talking about certain factors that may or may not seem fair, right? I don't understand why I have to do that. I don't know why this person said this or did that, right? There's a lot of layers. So if I can stay as calm as possible and worry about problem solving instead of escalating, I mean, the worst thing you can do is just start pointing fingers and say, oh, well, contractor should have known that, blah, blah, blah. Like, that doesn't solve any problem. And honestly, you just add to the stress. So sometimes you just have to absorb it, make sure it doesn't pass you from either the contractor through you to the client or the client through you to the contractor, right? You stay calm, you stay as neutral as possible, and you try to problem solve. And that's usually been how I get the repeat clients or a referral, is because they couldn't really, I'm grateful, but one just said to me the other day, "I can't imagine me doing this without you next to me. I would have lost my mind." Right? So I'm like, "Yeah, well, I lost mine a little too. I'm just really good at, like, settling down at the end."
That's awesome. And so obviously a lot of businesses you can't rely on referrals. And I know you kind of talked about how do you grow with digital marketing. And I'm wondering, what are your thoughts on that? Like, what's unclear, what's frustrating, what are you excited about, what as far as entering digital marketing space?
Yeah, I feel like it's its own language, and obviously it's its own profession, right? So here we are as small businesses trying to navigate a whole other language and profession that is outside of our realm. And it's becoming more and more complex, because there's algorithm changes that are constantly shifting, and you're becoming very dependent on these individual, softwares, right? Or companies that run the softwares, and you have to shift to every single one in order to even have the intent of being seen, right? And so that's a challenge for me personally, of being seen and being known, and also getting through the noise of all the spam. Even me, I am personally spammed regularly on advertisements about AI house plans, about, oh, I could do this for you for $100. And it's like, you can't. Like, I don't know. I don't care who you are. Like, it's not realistic. Right. And so there's a lot of things out there. So these poor people have to get through the noise too to find you. So, you know, the digital marketing world is just, being stuck to that algorithm dependency, trying to figure out the rules when you don't even know what the rules are, right? Because there's no kit. And if there is, then it changes every 3 months. So understanding that. And then the next layer is ads versus organic. Like, what does that mean? What does that look like? And are certain platforms keeping me away because I'm not paying for them?
Mm,
Right? So there's also that layer too that's constantly keeping me up at night. So no
just one more.
stress, right? On top of the screaming job sites, but we'll get there.
Yeah, let me know when you get there because
Yeah.
it never ends, I feel like.
No, it doesn't. And I mean, the profession, there's absolute entire professions, right? Good, good too, because I couldn't do it all.
You had mentioned AI, and I'm curious for you guys what you're doing now, because I think you had mentioned AI, using it for helping with your proposals. And I'm just wondering, like, overall, how has AI affected your workflow?
Yeah, so AI really helps me with some of the more administrative or straightforward aspects of my business. So once I've been able to feed it with some of my other work, I've been able to kind of create project proposals in half the time. Sometimes I have complex emails that I bullet point out and make AI organize appropriately. At this point, there's nothing I'm doing that they're being the expert on. I've tested it a few times, especially with, like, checking code comments. If something is very obscure, sometimes I'll throw it through AI to see if they'll tell me where the code section is. And a lot of times, unfortunately, I'm getting those hallucinations and it's not giving me accurate data. So there's nothing I'm utilizing it for that's critical for the job. It's more of if I had an assistant or an administrative individual, this is really helping me a lot. So it does give me several hours back, a week, which is critical to small business owners.
Absolutely. Yeah, as relates to AI, have you thought about it in terms of, if there was maybe one repetitive task that it could solve for you, what would it be?
If it could do anything social media wise, as far as like taking my prompts and then creating the graphic into it, like physically doing all of those things, I'd be very happy. I am using it for kind of like prompts or captions or things like that, basics that, again, it's expanding what I'm already giving it. But if I were able to almost treat it as a social media manager and me just giving the raw data. Like, I don't mind making the videos. I don't mind, establishing what the content is, but that would be fantastic.
Yeah, maybe expand a little bit. So give us an idea what you're doing for social media right now.
So right now it's still just me. And so what I'm doing is I'm utilizing AI for some of the big picture social medias. I'm also asking it a lot of questions as best I can with algorithms. Because if anybody's going to know about the algorithm, it's the other AI software. So I'm trying to utilize that, and it assists me with, even something like another software I use or a platform I use is Pinterest. And Pinterest I'm having pretty good success with it actually, but Pinterest is still search based,
Mhm.
almost like Google is,
Right.
versus Facebook and Instagram have a whole other system to it. So a lot of times I'll say, hey, this is what my strategy is, and these are the platforms I'm using. Give me the X, Y, and Z of how to do it. So I'll have, AI up on one screen while then I'm using like a social media scheduler because I don't have time to do all the stuff live. So right now I'm using I think Metricool. Metricool
Mhm.
is the software I'm utilizing to log things in. I like their analytics. I like that they're trying to give you like ideal times to post, etc. So I've been kind of working with those softwares to then plug into there because I do have a lot of work happening, small family, small children and a big family. So I've only got so many hours in the day, but we're working on that. We're fine tuning that. And it's really right now for me, I have to somehow have patience because I'm trying to still grow organically. And again, it's not growing as fast as I would like it to, but I think I'm doing the right things, but we shall see.
No, I get it. Everything takes longer than it should. It's just,
Yeah.
you put out something good and you want everyone to believe it, and it just takes time for the world to see, which is challenging.
Yeah.
Kind of to piggyback off that, you had mentioned before about, hey, I want to clone myself. Have
Yeah.
you thought about like, hey, if I could clone myself, what would that look like? Whether it's an actual clone or just AI. Have you thought about, hey, what is this? What it's going to look like for me?
Yeah, so, in my profession specifically, that is kind of an open joke of if I could only clone myself, I could get all these things done, right? And so for me, that kind of looks like it's more like creating systems, taking some of the information that's in my head and other professionals' heads and making sure that the regular person has 80% of the information they need. So all they have to do is go and find the extra 20% for something that's project specific, right? Because I don't think I'll ever be able to do a full clone, right? Everything is, the misconception sometimes with some of these websites with say house plans is, and they've been around for years and years and years, that there's this like one size fits all. And if I could just grab this house plan, then I'm already 50% of the way done. And that's just never really the case. There's something in the human professional that will solve these for you that buying a kit or using a prompt isn't going to get there yet. It's not there yet. So for me, cloning myself is how much information can I give you through the digital world that you can purchase, download, view, that gets you to be almost an expert. And then when you go to interview, hire, get that going, when they talk to you, this isn't the first time you're hearing it, and you have kind of this, advocate. So I can kind of tell you what you need to know because I don't have any skin in the game, right? Like if you're getting this from me, who's a third party person, it doesn't matter to me from a financial standpoint. Anyway, I care personally about people's dreams, but it doesn't matter to me whether you build the $500,000 house or the $2 million house or your business budget is 30 grand or 3 million. My advice, my education, my price is the same, right? So when I tell you these things, I tell you them as neutrally as I can. So that way you have that baseline. So when you talk to the local architects, engineers, contractors, landlords, there's probably 30 professions you end up talking to depending on your job. You know enough. Know enough that you're not solely dependent on their opinion, because that's the biggest thing for me. I can't tell you how many times I've had people come to me and they might not even end up being clients because unfortunately the job dies. But they're like, "Oh yeah, this person told me that I could do X, Y, and Z." And I go, "I'm so sorry, but you can't. And here's the information why you can't." And it kills me because they sign a lease where they buy the land, where they've done something that has some skin in the game, that has a dollar value and a time value, and they lost it. So my whole goal is to clone myself and my level of information, and hopefully down the line clone others, right? Clone other professionals, because I'll never act like I know all the things.
Hmm.
My head will explode, but my hope is to find other qualified people that I already have in my wheelhouse. I just have to convince them to come online with me and, give you that full breadth of information. So when you are ready to kickstart your dream, that you know more than, the regular person.
Yeah, I think that's interesting. And maybe you could expand on it a little bit more because you talked about having downloadable tools and
Mhm.
like this future digital community. And I'm wondering, have you started that process and what do you think the deliverable is going to be like, not only today, but down the road as you continue to work on it?
Yeah, yeah. So I did fully kind of launch the digital side of my business in the new year of 2026 here. And I'm really already seeing some positive feedback. There's a lot of information out there that again is a lot of noise or is more marketing. So I've been sticking to my values, and I've been sticking to the fact that I want to educate and that I don't want to, only give you a bit here and bit there. So I've been trying really hard to, get that critical content out there first. I have a few already available through my website. I'm hoping to, phase it where right now it's just PDFs. You can also get a consult from me digitally as well. If you really want to talk about a job, I'm happy to schedule that. So phase one here is getting the PDFs, getting the digital downloads so you can take them, you can print out a worksheet that's got directions and you can fill it out yourself or take it with you to interview a contractor or take it with you to figure out how you want to build something, right? So at least I'm there as a clone of piece of paper to give you prompts and questions and what to ask. Because if you don't even understand the concept holistically, how are you going to know what questions to ask? Right? So at least I give you enough to be dangerous and to annoy the person that you all of a sudden know more than you think you do, right? So that's my phase one. And I would love to branch. Again, I kind of talked about some other experts because I will never say that I know all the things. I know just enough to be dangerous myself when it comes to certain systems or engineers. They love me when I try to tell them what to do. So I'm like, hey, could we do this? They're like, no, Jesse, no. I'm like, fine. But my next phase would be to bring them on. So you might not have a full project question, but you might have a mechanical question,
Mm.
or you might have a civil question with land development, or you might have an electrical service question. There's many branches because fun fact, construction in the construction industry is 25% of the entire United States jobs, right? So this is a huge globe of things. And so if I can start to bring that cloning to my other partner, we can really kind of fine tune it, and we can give these homeowners and these small business owners a real fighting chance to be successful outside of all the other challenges they're already facing with one, making their dream real, right? Two is anything with financing and banking, it's already give me a blood sample and your firstborn, so they've already got all these struggles. So if I can make this process as easy as humanly possible, then I'll do it all day. So that's kind of where I'm phasing to. So right now it's the PDFs, the downloads, the take with yous. The next will be, more of the interactive video, private community, more professionals, the one-stop shop of real technical advice instead of just pretty pictures, look how good this looks type of thing.
Yeah, have you thought about it? Hey, this is what I want Gable Design to look like in 5 years from now or 10 years from now. Because obviously you're laying the foundation for right now, but where do you see this going?
Yeah, I would love to be able to help as many people as possible, right? And the only way to truly do that is to do it in the digital world. Because, right now, even if every minute of my 24 hours of a day was taken up, there's still a limit to who I can assist, right? It just stops. So if there is a way to answer 95% of the repeat questions, it's all about refining and expanding that. So I'm hoping in the next, 5, 10 years that Gable Design really turns into, a more education than it is even just architectural service, right? I feel like I'm more of an educator. And again, that advocate, it's important. People lose thousands and thousands of dollars all the time. I mean, I sit at the Christmas and Thanksgiving table listening to just family and friends have these horror stories. And, of course they never want to call me because they don't want to bother me. And I go, why? You know, please, I could have helped you, but, that's another subject for another day of, you're not bothering me. Let me help you navigate this. But then there's another layer too that maybe in the future I'll be able to handle. And that's also on the contractor side. Because a lot of these contractors, the reason that they're so good at it is because they were apprentices, right? They learn by doing. So they worked for other contractors and grew their business or grew however they grew. But a lot of times they only know what they know, right? They only know what the last two employers did, and then they're adapting that to their system. So there's other things out there to know as well, even on that end. So I'm hoping that, over the next 5, 10 years, yes, I find the honing mechanisms and the data for these homeowners, these small business owners, but maybe even we'll go to the small business owners with construction, because they could use some help too.
Absolutely. Maybe kind of generally speaking, maybe someone, whether it's residential or commercial, that's looking to start a renovation or a build, like, what's the one mistake you tell them to avoid before even starting?
Yeah, the one thing I say is please do not sign anything without talking to someone that doesn't have any skin in the game. And I mean like a third party person. I'm not saying people are deceptive, right? I am an optimistic by heart, so I'm going to stay that way, hopefully for forever. I'm not yet curmudgeon but sometimes people are anxious about giving you an instant answer versus actually finding the answer. So, what I mean by that, this is a really good example, if I may, for a project. Someone contacted me. They bought two lots side by side in a development, and they wanted to combine the lots to build a larger, actually multi generation family house on it. It was going to be beautiful the way they described it. And I was extremely excited because that's fun. That's a dream right there. And I said, okay, did you talk to the developer about combining the lots? Because sometimes in the bylaws, etc., they don't allow that. Yes, we talked to the developer's broker, so the real estate agent. She said no problem whatsoever. So I went ahead and bought those two lots. I think they paid cash for it, so they own them outright already. And now we're ready to start building the plans. And I said, okay, great. There's a few kind of land development things we have to do with combining the lots, but it'll take a little longer than just permit and build, right? Add 4 to 6 months just for some more of the civil work. They're like, okay, great, great. And I was like, all right, I need the drawings and I need all of the data from the developer. Great, no problem. But we're really on a timeline. Can you start working on this? So we already started. I spent a few thousand of their dollars starting to draw things. Finally, after a few weeks, I get the link with all the data and all the drawings. Turns out that there is a stormwater easement, which is about 15 feet wide, that goes right down the middle of both those lots. So there's a 15-foot grass stretch between the two lots that cannot, by law, be built on. We went through it all. I walked them through it all. There was no way around it. Project died
Ugh,
because someone said it was no problem.
yeah.
And I don't think that person was deceptive, right? I just think that they were trying to problem solve. They probably said something in passing to somebody and they were like, oh, yeah, we'll let it happen. As long as they meet our architectural board requirements with the way that the building looks on the exterior, where the garage sits, all of that, we're fine with that.
Wow.
Project died. So I just ask, and I mean, I've got 3 dozen plus stories about stuff like that from a residential side to a construction or to commercial side, signing leases before they understand and then they're stuck with rent. Just please, I know you're in a rush. I know somebody's probably pressuring you for you to sign. Take 24 to 48 hours. Have a consult with someone. to know what those questions are to ask.
Hmm.
That doesn't have any skin in the game.
Yeah. No emotion to it.
Critical. Yeah.
Yeah.
Doesn't have a monetary value or a push to get it done or the deal to be closed. Please just talk to somebody else.
Yeah.
That's
That's
it.
good.
That's all I've got really on
No, that's
on
good.
the
Yeah.
criticalness of that.
It's important because I know people think about that. Go, yeah, they said it was fine, so we're going to do it.
Which I mean, and if you don't know, you talk to the boss, right? You talk to the owner, so they should know better. And it turns out that it was just a simple oops because they thought, I think by memory, that one person thought that that easement, which you can't tell because you can't tell because Google Maps didn't have the development done yet. You can't tell by looking at the grass, right? It's not obvious. It's not like there was a power line there. It was an underground pipe that went down into a stormwater retention pond behind the properties. But the way that it was curved, you have no idea where that was going to come in at. To the regular person, you wouldn't have known it was there. But the moment I got the drawings, it was extremely obvious because it's a big hatch mark with a big note that says cannot build.
Okay, last question. If people are interested in learning more about you or your company, where's the best place to go for that?
Probably my website. My website is kind of the one-stop shop, and then you could bounce out to social media if you want. So my website is www.
Awesome. All right, Jesse, this has been a lot of fun. Thanks for being on today.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks.